Morning Lucy and welcome to your maths lesson for today. You listen to this guided practice and then when I ask you to complete your independent practice, can you do that please? So first of all, let's do our counting and we are going to be counting our 7 times table. Table. 0 times 7 equals 0, 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 7 is 14, 3 times 7 is 21, 4 times 7 is 28, 5 times 7 is 35, 6 times 7 is 42, 7 times 7 is 49, 8 times 7 is 56, 9 times 7 is 63, 10 times 7 is 70, 11 times 7 is 77, and 12 times 7 is 84. Let's clap together and go through the multiples. 0, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70, 77, 84. Well done, and I hope you were joining in with me then. Now this is your warm-up, your oral mental starter. I would like you to complete the number sentences to match the place value charts. So A, you have 2.6. There are how many ones and how many tenths? And then you will say that there are so many ones, add that many tens equals the ones and the tenths and what the decimal is. Okay, and obviously you can see that the decimal is right there for you. Can you have a go at completing those, please? Now, this is on your sheet. It's just for you to warm up, to do it in your head or write it on a piece of paper. Right, lovely. We are now on to our guided practice, and our learning objective for today is hundredths on a place value grid. So we're going to write the decimal that is represented in each place value chart. For A then, I can see that there are no ones, there are no tenths, okay? So when I am writing that as a decimal, I have 0 ones, 0.0 tenths, but I do have hundredths. Now let's count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. So I can see quite clearly what my decimal is going to be. I'm going to have a 0, a 0, and a 4. Is that correct? I'm hoping that you're thinking that it is not, because I've actually missed out the decimal point there. And you can see that it is there, dividing line between ones and tenths. Let's do B now, and then you complete your independent practice. So again, there are no ones, so that will be a placeholder. There is my decimal point. Then I have 1, 2, 3 tenths, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths. So my decimal is 0.35. Now, so look at your independent practice. I would like you to complete these C, D, and E on your piece of paper or on Teams. Good luck. Again, back to our guided practice. You're going to use the place value counters to make each number. So you're going to draw your answers on your piece of paper. A, I've got 0.06. So, and I have 0 ones because that is my ones column. After the decimal point comes the tenths, and after the tenths, correct, it's the hundredths, as you can see on our place value grid, just below where I am writing. So I have 0 ones, so no counters will go in this ones column. Okay, no counters there. There are no tenths, so I won't draw any counters in my tenths column, but there are 6 hundredths, so I'm going to actually draw, yes, 6 counters in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gosh, that third one went a bit dodgy, didn't it? Okay, so now you can see I've represented in my place value grid that I have 0.06 because I have 6 hundredths, and I've represented that by using 6 counters. Now again with B, I have decimal 0.24. In my ones column, I don't have any I don't have any other value other than the placeholder, so I don't need to draw any counters in that ones column. I do actually though have 2/10ths, so I'm going to draw 2 counters to represent the 2/10ths that are in that place value column. And then I can see for my hundredths, I have 4 hundredths. So I'm going to go to my hundredths column and draw 4 counters. And now I've represented in my place value grid 0.24 because there aren't any ones, but it would be replaced with a placeholder. And that's why it's so important to use that. It would be 0.24. Now, can you have a go at your independent practice with 1.72 and 3.08? Good luck. Now, here I am going to model to you A and D, which are these that I'm highlighting now, and then you're going to complete B, C, E and F independently on your piece of paper. So you can see that we've got part whole models, and our job is to complete these part whole models. So here I have 0.1 and 0.04. Now if I have a place value grid, I'll have my ones, I'll have a decimal point, and can you think what comes after there? Yes, I have my tenths and I have my hundredths. And this might be worth having on your sheet if you feel like you'd feel more confident having a place value grid next to you. Okay, so sorry for the sniffles. I have 0.1 and then I have 0.04. Now those are my 2 parts that I need to figure the whole out for, that I put here. So I've got 0.1 add 0.04. So the 2 zeros in my ones column give me 0. So I pop that there. And I put my decimal point after it because I know after that I'm going to be looking at my tenths. In my tenths column, I've got 1/10, and in 0.04 there are no tenths. So actually I have got 1/10 when those 2 parts are added together. Then I look over to my hundredths column. There are no hundredths in 0.1, but in 0.04 there are 4 hundredths. You see I'm circling it there. So now I can put in my 4 hundredths. So the 2 part 0.1 add 0.04 equal the whole 0.14. Now we're going to look at D. Now this is different because you have the whole and you have a part. So we have to work out the other part that is missing in this circle here. Now before we had to work out what the whole was. But what is the same about these is that it's the same representation being used, and we are still working with ones, tenths and hundredths. So you can see, again, if I was to use my ones and my tenths, and my hundredths, I have how many ones? Yes, you should be thinking, yes, I have 2 ones, okay? But my whole total is 2.53. So what is missing in my tenths column here and my hundredths column for our missing parts? Okay, well, I know that I've already got 2, so I don't need another 2 to make up my whole. So I can put 0 there. And my placeholder, and my decimal point will still sit there because after I've passed that threshold of the ones, I'm going across to my tenths and hundredths. So I don't need the 2 because I've already got that there. Brilliant. Okay, so in my placeholder will go in there, and that's super important. So then I'm going to be writing a decimal. Now, we don't have the 5/10ths and we don't have the 300ths. So actually, I can write that in now. I have 5/10ths and I have 300ths. So here, if I was to put my number 2, After the number 2, after the decimal point, there are no tenths and no hundredths. So if I was to do my column addition there, I now worked out that 0.53 needs to be it's the missing part that goes in this part here, because 2 at 0.53 equals 2.53 there. So I'll write that into my part model now. 0.53. I can see that the 2 is there, and I've got my placeholder in my ones column for my decimal because I already have the 2. So I can tick that 2 off, and now I actually have the 5 tenths and the 3 hundredths. So I wonder now if you can have a go at B, E, C and F on your paper pack, please. Good luck! So this is guided practice. We're going to speak through this as a discussion together. Okay, so I'm going to go through A. So 2 tenths can be exchanged for how many hundredths? Okay, so let's just think about 20p. If I have 20p, okay, how many 1 pennies can I replace that for? Exchange it for, sorry. Yes, I have 21 pences. Okay, so here I have 2 tenths. But imagining that 100 square again, if I have that 100 square, there would be 100 squares, and there would be 20 equal squares shaded in. If we look back at 2 tenths, I know that there would be 2 full rows or 2 full columns shaded out of a total of 10 full rows or columns. So 2 tenths is the equivalent to 20 hundredths, and that means it's equal to. If I just show you here with the 2 tenths and the 20 hundredths, you can see there's a bit of relationship there. You can see that 2 has been multiplied by 10 in order to get to 20. So whatever we do to the top, we do to the bottom. So actually 10 has also been multiplied by 10 to get to 100. So you can see that those 2 are equal to each other. But just thinking back to my first example, if I have a 120p coin, I could exchange that for 21 pences. Or here, if I have 2 10p's, which will give me 20p, I could still exchange that for 21p's. Okay, so what do you think B could be then? 7 tenths can be exchanged for how many hundredths? I'm hoping you're thinking 70. Well done. Okay, now here we have got tenths and hundredths in C. So if we know 7 tenths can be exchanged for 70 hundredths, but we've also got an extra 4 hundredths. If I'm imagining my 100 square now, I would have 70 equal squares shaded in, or 7 rows shaded in. And then I'd have an extra 4 shaded in. So the 70 add the 4, so the 7 tenths add the 4 hundredths would give me a total of 74 hundredths. Now, here we've got another question that would be worth us talking about. We have 26 hundredths, but we haven't got how many tenths that is and how many hundredths that is equivalent to. Now, using C to help you, what do you think would be our answer? Do you think how many tenths would we need to make 26 hundredths, and how many hundredths would we need to make those 26 hundredths? Yes, you're correct. It is 2 tenths and 6 hundredths. Well done, Lucy.